Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like to start out by thanking Airthings for hosting this air quality summit here today. For me, this is the first time that I've travelled outside the UK for 18 months or so, I guess, pretty much like many here today. So I'm absolutely delighted to be here today in this great venue in this wonderful city of Oslo. I'd also like to thank Airthings for asking me to share with you today what we're doing in the UK with our Clean Air Schools campaign and how we're trying to help some of our local schools see what's going on and better understand what's going on in their air. I'm John Lumb. I represent a company called Evotech. We're a small UK-based technical services provider. We work with a range of clients in commercial, industrial and retail settings. And as Lauren pointed out, we saw the growing importance of air quality in early 2020, just slightly ahead of COVID. And we saw that growing importance, so we set up our specialist team in order to help our customers better understand it and work with them to create safer, healthier indoor environments. So what is our Clean Air Schools campaign all about? Well, I want to start by sharing with you a short video, maybe 2-3 minutes long. And this is actually a BBC News report that was first aired maybe about 4 or 5 months ago. Oh, we don't have any sound.
And to taste it.
Ever since we started here in nursery, we've been inhaling the fumes of air pollution.
It makes it difficult for people to breathe. It makes me feel out of breath. It affects me with my asthma and it makes me cough more. I do have to take my asthma inhaler a lot.
Unfortunately, now as lockdowns are being lifted, we've got the traffic coming back and we really don't want it to return to the way it was because it's choking us.
I am writing to you from St Ambrose.
We urge you to protect us.
We've been to Parliament, we've delivered these, we've had many MPs come to visit us. Our children have voices, but at the moment it's the adults that are going to influence the changes.
Plants have to be carefully selected, and something like this Western red cedar with all its little leaflets does a great job of capturing particles, depositing particles on the leaf surface and keeping them so that they're removed from the atmosphere. We can see here at St Ambrose, we have anything between 30% reduction and even greater 50 or 60% reduction, at least until we can reduce our particulate emissions from traffic. They'll do a job for us.
If we can encourage some sort of hybrid working opportunities where 2 or maybe 3 days a week at home is encouraged where possible, then that would make a seismic difference. This is our children's future, and the air that they're breathing is not fit for purpose. Now's the chance to really do something about it.
I've watched that video 100 times, and I always find it a compelling real-life example of how air quality is affecting our children and our teachers in schools throughout the UK. You missed the opening headline statement there from Mrs. Vero, the head teacher, and she said, when the traffic is at its worst, we can smell and taste it. And she's campaigned for a number of years now for help to improve air quality in and around the school. And as she pointed out, during the pandemic, there was a huge reduction in traffic on our roads, pretty much that we've seen throughout the world. And that's had a positive impact on air pollution in and around the school. But she's worried that it's going to return back to normal levels. And I have to say, from my own experiences of driving around the north of England over the last 2 to 3 weeks, traffic is back to where it was pre-COVID. The roads are chocker once again. And unfortunately, as you can see from the pictures behind me, St Ambrose at the side of a major commuter road. This is one of the busiest roads in Europe. This is the main feed road from the north, right through north of Manchester into Manchester city centre. 3 lanes of traffic either side. And the school playground is right at the curbside. So as the children are there playing throughout the day, they are breathing in the fumes from those vehicles. And when the school was built back in the 1930s, obviously no one could foresee the massive increase that we've seen in traffic over the 90 years, and of course the impact that would have on air quality. So St Ambrose has a significant air quality challenge. And those are challenges that aren't uncommon across our schools throughout the UK. And the problem's widespread, and it isn't just about vehicle emissions. So what I'd like to do is I'd just like to put that into some context and talk you through some facts about UK schools. So we have over 32,000 schools in the UK. Of which about 75% of them are in England, obviously the rest in Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales. And we have a huge amount of children, 10.3 million school children at school every single day, or at least there should be, supported by almost 625,000 teachers, full-time teachers. So when you add to that the part-time teachers, the teaching assistants, the support workers, the parents who help out in the schools, whether that's with school meals or whatever it is, there's in excess of 1 million adults. So you add the two together, 11.5 million. That is 17 to 18% of the entire UK population are in our schools every single school day for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. So the condition of our buildings, our school estate, is fundamentally important to their health and well-being. The well-being of our children who are in schools from the ages of 4 to 18, and the long-term health of our teachers. So, what conditions are our schools in? Well, sadly, not great. We have a lot of old schools. We have an aging building stock, and that's been compounded over the last 10 years by significant budget reductions from the government in capital expenditure following the financial crisis in 2008. So the data we have suggests 44% reduction in CapEx. So that's the money that would have been used to repair schools, renew assets in schools, even rebuild schools. The government has still spent £4.4 billion. I mean, that in itself is a huge amount of money. And they've done that on repairs and rebuilds over the last 10 years, but it is only scratching the surface. So we have a legacy of disrepair in our school buildings. We have crumbling buildings with leaking roofs. We've still got asbestos in our schools. We have children still going to school all day long in temporary buildings that are beyond their lifespan, as per the example you can see there. And so to understand the condition of our schools, because that's really important in terms of context of what we're talking about here today, we can look at a survey that the Department for Education and Skills undertook, and this is a mammoth survey. I believe it's the biggest conditional survey of property ever undertaken in the UK. And it was undertook in England. Obviously, we're in a devolved nation in the UK, so we're just looking at England here. And they looked at 22,000 schools, virtually every school in England, bar the ones that were being rebuilt, over a 3-year period, 2017 to 2019. And as I understand it, there was an army of building engineers and surveyors, about 300 of them at any given time, were crawling around these schools looking at the condition. To put that in context, 78.7 million square metres of gross internal floor area. I mean, that's just huge. The total landmass area, 514 square metres, is bigger than the whole area of Oslo. Indeed, any major city in the UK. And these are the schools, the outbuildings, the playgrounds and the sports fields. So we have a big school estate. And the condition survey looked at what condition obviously the schools are in, and it was looking for the remedial repairs that were required, what's in disrepair, what's not working, and very much looking at the priority of those, which ones were more important than others. And the cost that they came up, this, by the way, is only released in May of this year. So this is hot off the press. This is May, June 2021. These figures, this report has just been released. And the figure that they have come up with and they have assessed to repair our schools, and this is just to repair, not rebuild, just to fix things that don't work properly, is a whopping £11.4 billion just to repair our schools. And when you look into the data in a little bit more detail, you can understand that. This data, the charts here, are showing us the decade of construction by gross internal floor area. And there's no surprise to see that almost 60% of our gross internal floor area predates 1980s, when modern building construction methods were introduced and standards were introduced in the UK. And right down the bottom, nearly 5 million of gross internal floor area predates 1900s. So we have an aging building stock. And when you look at the cost of repairs by decade of construction, again, no surprise. 75% of our 11.4 billion predates 1980s buildings. Again, a legacy of aging buildings. And when you drill in further to have a look at where those costs lies by element of repair, no surprise again, 70% is to do with the building fabric. So the walls and the roof and the services in there. You can see what have we got there? We've got 2.5 billion, of course. 2.5 billion in electrical services, getting our electrical services in the schools up to the required standards. We've got just over 2 billion there in mechanical services to repair boilers that don't work, hot water distribution systems that don't work, ventilation systems that don't work, 1.5 billion in external walls that aren't insulated, doors and windows that don't open or close. I put this slide in just to explain really the types of schools we have in the UK. There's only really two types. We have primary and secondary. So primary schools, we have lots and lots and lots of small primary schools dotted around local communities. In fact, the chart there tells us that 76% of our English schools are primary schools. And these are for age group 4 to 11 children, and they're generally smaller schools with about 200 in the school. We then have a lesser number of secondary schools, much bigger for age group 11 to 18, where you would have often 1,500 pupils in those schools. So I have to say, it's not all doom and gloom. There is a faint glimmer of hope in what's happening here. And the UK government announced in the midst of pandemic last year, as part of the measures that they were looking to introduce to kickstart the UK economy, the school rebuilding programme. And this is designed, the objective of which to undertake 500 rebuilding projects over the next decade, which is great. £1 billion of committed funding has been allocated to that so far, which clearly isn't enough, but it's a start. It's the budget review next month in the UK, so we should see some more committed funding at that point. And so far, 100 schools have been named. So that's fantastic. As I say, it is a very small step in the right direction, because if we actually do achieve this in the next 10 years, assuming there's no policy change, there's no more catastrophes, and there's no change in government, so putting all those small issues aside, and this actually happens, we've only tackled 2% of our schools. So what about the other 98% that are aging and in disrepair? What are we going to do with those? So how does that translate into the air quality challenge for our schools? Well, as I've just shown in the slides, we've got a lot of schools in a poor state of repair, which then translates into poor building performance, whether that's by design or by operation or by state of repair. We have high occupancy levels. So in our primary schools, they are typically small classroom sizes with 30 plus children in them, with a teacher and a teacher assistant and maybe other people in there. So lots of bodies, granted, many of them are small bodies, but we've got high occupancy levels. And of course, then location. So a lot of our schools were built a very long time ago, 50, 100 years ago. Ideal locations at the time. But as society has developed and we've seen a massive increase in population in the UK over the last 100 years, the communities that these primary schools are in certainly have been developed, if not overdeveloped. And therefore, we find that schools now are not in an ideal location, like St Ambrose that you saw before, at the side of an incredibly busy commuter road. Then on top of which, we've got air pollution, which I'll skirt over because we've heard a lot about that today, but clearly we've got a lot of problems with traffic emissions, lots of parents. Everybody has a car and then an extra car in the UK. So just in case the other one breaks down. So we've got parents dropping children off, picking children up. We've got buses coming and going. We've got delivery trucks all day long and commuter traffic. We've got problems with airborne particulate matter. We've got lesser known problems such as airborne microplastics. We're all aware of the issues of microplastics in our oceans and our rivers and the food chain. And there are some early studies, so I believe now underway, looking at the relevance of microplastics in the air. I think that is one issue to be mindful of moving forward. Then we've got indoor air pollution. We've got high levels of occupancy, therefore we've got issues with CO2. We've got volatile organic compounds, depending on how the schools have been built and their cleaning regimes, and they always get a lick of paint in the summer holidays, so it depends what they've used. And then lesser known issues such as radon, lesser known because obviously people in the schools are not aware of these air quality matters. We've seen quite a bit of this today, so I'm not really going to talk too much about this, but it is in the spotlight. Awareness is growing significantly, and that is one of the very few positive outcomes from COVID. But I'll just pick up on the one on the left here. All the UK press in the summer around Clean Air Day were reporting this headline of a quarter of UK pupils attend schools where air pollution is over WHO limits. So they were talking about PM levels there. A quarter of 10.3 million children. Obviously, that guideline from WHO was tightened yesterday, so that's more than 2.5 million children now. So awareness is growing, but it does action follow with that. So what are we doing about it? Well, as a technical services company, we thought, okay, our awareness of air quality is growing. What can we do, certainly in the schools where our children go to? So we decided on Clean Air Day, which is a national awareness day in the UK for clean air and air pollution, for those of you not familiar with it. And we decided to launch our Clean Air Schools campaign back in June of this year, with the very kind support of Air Things and the guys at Airly as well. And we did this because we believe, like I'm sure everybody in here, that our children have the basic human right to clean air, wherever they are in their lives, at school, on the bus, playing in the field, in the parks with their kids. So our campaign mission was to work with some of our local schools using our skills and knowledge that we have as a business and the technology that's available to us through working with the likes of Air Things and Airly to help them understand what's going on in their school environments and help them improve them. So this campaign's in Calderdale. I'll put this up just to give you a bit of context about where we are. The dark green map is Yorkshire, split into the 4 counties, north, south, east and west. And we're the sort of yellow bit there, Calderdale. So we're a tiny part of West Yorkshire. In the inset map, you can see where Yorkshire is. So we're right bang in the centre, really between Leeds and Manchester. Most people will know Leeds and Manchester. Leeds, because obviously a very famous football team. Obviously, I don't come from Leeds, but that's where we are. So on Clean Air Day, what we did was we wrote out to all our state schools. And I'm talking about state schools rather than independent schools because they're obviously better funded. Not that they don't have the same problems, of course, but they're better funded. So we wrote out to all our state schools, about 110 of them, inviting them to join our Clean Air campaign. And so we put a page up to explain what our Clean Air Schools campaign was, and we invited them to join that. And we were offering out to work with 5 schools on a fully funded air quality monitoring program. Fully funded, i.e. not costing them a penny because they don't have any spare pennies. And we decided that this was something that we could do as a business in order to give something back to the community that we work within and live within. And we offered this for the whole academic year. And we did that because we realized that if we just do it for a week or two, and it's not just about sticking a really clever device on a wall and going, oh, look at your air quality. It's the whole holistic picture here. And we decided we needed to do it longer than a week, a month, or a term, really for two reasons. One, we have to work with the schools carefully and help them build awareness of air quality inside their spaces. And that would take longer than a few weeks. And then secondly, as engineers, we like to see the whole building across the 4 seasons and the heating and cooling season, and then we get a better idea of what's going on. So we wrote out to 110. We got a really good response. 20 odd or so replied. Some replied after the deadline, and we selected our 5. I am just going to introduce. Oh, okay. Sorry, just go back a step. So what we offered them was an Airly outdoor air quality sensor. Fantastic piece of kit for those of you not familiar with this. This allows us to monitor hyperlocal data outside in the playground at the school front door, 24 hours a day. We can see what's going on in the playgrounds in terms of PM, vehicle emissions, NO2 and O3. Alongside that, we would put the Airthings wireless sensor platform in throughout the school, pretty much everywhere, so we could also see what's going on inside those schools 24 hours a day. So we had a full picture, indoor-outdoor air quality. And then on top of which, we would support them, being locally based. We'd support them, work with them. Our people in the business would monitor the data, would analyse the data, and then work with the schools in order to find ways of improving it. So we selected our 5 schools, but we also reached out to St Ambrose that you saw there in the video when we first saw that, because we were compelled to, and we spoke to the head teacher there, and we invited them to join, which she gratefully accepted. So I don't really need to introduce these guys too much, other than a common theme quickly through these slides about the building. I think because the building fabric is and the mechanical systems is very important, obviously, to the air quality. So as we know, this is located right at the side of the main commuter road, naturally ventilated building, solid brick construction, and all the windows you can see in the bottom picture there are the classrooms, and that faces the main road. So if they want some fresh air, they open the windows, but they don't open the windows because it just lets in all the vehicle emissions. So that's the problem they've got. Go back to what I'm saying, in the wrong location. But if anybody's got a spare few million quid, we can rebuild it for them. We've then got the Halifax Academy. By contrast, this is a pretty brand new building, only 5 years ago, built under the UK PFI scheme. Modern construction, really nice school. It's how all the schools should be. Well insulated, lots of glass, natural light, mechanically ventilated. It's only part mechanically ventilated. I don't understand why. I think somebody maybe cocked that up, but it's got some mechanical ventilation in there. But this is located in a very highly populated residential area and a much bigger school, 287 pupils. We are working with the senior school part of this as well, but we haven't included them in this slide today. This is our oldest school that we're working with, St Joseph's Primary School. So this is 1870s build. Solid stone construction in the north of England. The walls are about 0.5 metre thick, solid stone walls. Naturally ventilated. And this, interestingly, is in an elevated position set from the main road, so it has different challenges. We have an old archive picture for this I just want to share with you. This is our school in the foreground. And if you look at the pictures of the vehicles, I guess this must be 1940s, 1950s. If you've got any car enthusiasts here, you might be able to tell me better, but I think that's where it is. And what I was interested in with this is not only it shows you how close it is to the main road, which is much busier today, but is it the picture quality, or is that how the air quality was in the day? And I reckon it was. I'm going to tell you why. This is Dean Clough. This is an area of Halifax. This is the epicentre of the Industrial Revolution. And Crossley carpets that you can see on the top of the building up there, they invented the modern loom manufacturing method for carpets that we have. And this is typical in the north of England. The mill owners would take areas like this, construct their mills, and then they would build the terrace houses for the mill workers and then the schools for their children to go in. So this whole area would be involved in the daily running of those mills. And you can see from the chimneys all the plumes of smoke coming out. So I reckon in the 40s to 50s, that's how it was. So even though it's bad today, it's not as bad as it was then. So that's our school. It hasn't really changed much since then. Westfale Academy, much smaller school, similar built construction, naturally ventilated. This also is by a main commuter road. You can't really see it with the picture, but it is. So again, it's got traffic emission problems. Another school here, very similar, stone construction, naturally ventilated. You're getting the feel for it. Final school, again, very similar, stone construction, naturally ventilated. This school has got a big modern extension on the back. You can kind of see it there. And these are all primary schools in the local community. And we didn't select them on purpose, I have to say. We just kind of just randomly selected them, and these are the ones we ended up with. And I have to say, all of these, having been in these schools a few times, they're actually not in not a bad state of repair. You know, they're not shocking, irrespective of what I've just explained in a few slides earlier. So our air quality monitoring process is kind of 4 stages to this. This is what we set out to do. Go and deploy the devices, monitor the data, analyze the data, and then work with the schools with that data to see what we can do and how we can improve it. But let's not miss the trick. Let's use what we've got to help education. So we'll come on to that. And then, of course, let's try and achieve some positive outcomes. So sensor deployment over the summer, which is literally 5 seconds ago, wasn't it? It was July and August. We were crawling over these schools. We deployed 150 odd sensors, 6 early outdoor sensors. We put them everywhere. We put them in all the classrooms. We put them in the kitchens, sports halls, corridors, teachers, meeting rooms, reception areas, and obviously outdoors. So we had a full picture of indoor air quality in these 6 schools. So what data have we got? Well, we're only into week 3 of our schools being back, literally, this week. So we don't have really any meaningful data to share with you because this is just literally, happening right now. But I didn't want to disappoint. So I took some screen grabs. I hope you're going to be able to see this. I did have an idea of trying to go into the live system and all the rest of it, but my clicking powers would have made a mess of it and you would have got bored of me. So I just put some screen grabs up. I do hope you can see this data. I will talk you through it. So this one, first of all, you'll notice there's only 5 on there. That's the limitation of my screen. Obviously there are 6, but we've got 5 of the early outdoor sensors here. So as a side note, fantastic collaboration between Airthings and Airly. I know there is somebody here from Airly today that we can actually see this data in the Airthings platform. It makes it so much easier to analyze and monitor indoor air quality together. So, great innovation that. But these 5 sensors are giving us PM 2.5. This was kind of taken, I think, I did this the end of last week. So this is showing us a month. So you can kind of see the pattern. We're in the north of England. One of them's in Manchester. The rest are in Elland, which isn't too far away. And you could be tempted to think, oh, look at the spike around the beginning of September when all the schools have gone back. I wonder if that's to do with all the traffic and the vehicles on the road and so on. Well, it's too early really to look into it, but you can see it's kind of come back down into some normal ranges there. So maybe that's not, maybe it's just been weather driven, but clearly we'll be monitoring this closely. So this is giving us data of what's going on in the playground, which translates into what's going on inside, because as we said, our school buildings, they're not airtight. They have windows that don't fully close properly. So whatever pollution's outside is going inside. This is the big one. This is the CO2. So we took these screenshots last week. It was for a week, and it shows us exactly what you expect. It shows you when the children aren't there. Brilliant for timekeeping, because it is showing us exactly what we expect in terms of the CO2 spikes. So these are 5 different classrooms in 5 different schools. And you can see exactly the peaks that are going on through the day in all of these. So really 2 things that jump out for me here. Maria talked about UK government pushing 25 million quid into CO2 monitors in England, Scotland, Scottish government have done the same, and in various other countries. And whilst that is, welcome, I've seen the guidance that has gone out with the monitors for the English schools, and amongst the several pages of how to turn them on and where to position them, it does advise the teachers that anything over 1500 ppm, you should take some action to improve that. It doesn't really tell them what to do. It does signpost them to other reference material. So 1500 ppm. What we're seeing here is we're seeing 3,500 ppm in our schools. We're seeing 2,500 ppm. If you look down at the bottom where it says USA classroom, that's at Halifax Academy. They like to call all their classrooms by different countries. Mechanically ventilated, it's 2,500 ppm. What's going on? It's only 5 years old. So great insight. And now we can help the schools. We can keep to monitoring this. I looked at the data yesterday again. I was on my laptop. I couldn't do a bigger screenshot. I was trying to update this, but it's the same trend. We're seeing the same thing day in, day out. This last one is a bit of an unexpected one. This is a school, 4 sensors in a school, showing us some early warnings of some possible radon spikes. So we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, radon is long-term exposure. I think everybody knows, radon's worse in the winter. So we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll work with the school. If that does transpire into a problem, then we'll help them remediate that. Section 3, education. I mean, for me, this is the biggest thing. It's great having the technology to understand what's in the air and being able to do something about it. But as we've seen earlier, there's the big issue with understanding and awareness. So whilst us as experts can find ways to monitor what's in the air and then deal with it, it's really about educating everybody over the importance of it. So we were working with the schools over the summer holidays in terms of how we could help them achieve that and support classroom learning around the topic of air quality, how they could improve awareness with the school children, how they could engage with the wider school community, the parents. And they really suggested to us, look, we really need to tackle this one term at a time. The kids have got, quite a busy curriculum as it is. So let's do one at a time. So we said, well, let's do CO2 in the winter. Let's look at particulate matter in the spring, and let's look at vehicle emissions in the summer. So we've kind of gone with that. We then thought about ways that we can help them. So we've come up with this idea of a classroom air quality board, really to put a focal point into the classrooms. And what this does is it provides them a central point to build up and underpin their learning. What we're going to do is you can see there on the whiteboard in the centre, which is just a magnetic whiteboard, we are attaching to it one of the new Airthings View Plus sensors. So that gives engagement with the children. They can see what the readings are in the classroom. The classes are going to nominate one of the children as an air quality ambassador every week. And it's going to be that child's job to keep an eye on, in this term, CO2. They're going to be able to record it using the magnetic smiley faces. And they're going to be able to keep an eye out on increasing levels. And if increasing levels are there, they can shout to the teacher, let's open a window, open a door, etc. And it really helps to get that engagement going with the kids. Pin boards, kids, what they do best, drawings and pictures and charts, and it just allows to underpin that learning. We then thought it'd be a really good idea to help awareness throughout the school. We love the Wave Plus device sensor. It's really sleek in its design, blends in really well, perhaps too well in the school. No one really knows what it does. So we thought that we would create one of these boards, a simple little board that we would then just stick behind the sensor throughout the school. So as the kids and the parents and the teachers are wandering around the school, they can see, wow, look, it's an air quality sensor, and it really sort of helps lift that awareness of air quality. Similarly, in the playground, this is an idea we borrowed from the guys at Airlie. They are doing this in the schools that they're working with in the UK and in the States. So you can see the sensor we fitted at Westvale on the wall there. Fantastic, lovely looking sensor. very discreet, but again, no one really knows what it does. So we're going to put these boards behind them. That then allows the children and the parents and anybody in the playground really to see what the air quality is. And the QR code allows you to scan straight into the My Airly dashboard. And it gives you a lot more information about the data from that sensor, plus historical and forecast data. Moving into next term, where the schools are going to look at particular matter, we said to them, we'll give you some DIY, build your own air purifier kits. These are a couple of examples here. So the one in the top right there is Ford. So last year, in the middle of the pandemic, Ford in America, their engineers created this kit, and they distributed it out to a few 100,000 state schools. And so it arrived in the box. The kids were able to turn the box into the stand as per the instructions. There's a box filter that sits in there, and then obviously a box fan on top. And the idea was really about COVID remediation. That was what they were driving at. The other example here is just a simple desk fan with a fan strapped to it. So we're playing around with these in our office right now, and our plan is that we will give these to the schools in January to allow them to help learning about particular matter. So they'll start teaching the children about what PM is, what does it mean, where does it come from, how does it affect you, what can we do about it. They'll be able to monitor it using the View Plus sensor. They'll be able to record it. The air quality ambassador will be recording that. And then they can build their air purifier kits and learn about, what does this do? How does the filter work? Why does it get dirty? What's in there? So it's just about giving them some tools to help them support that learning. So outcomes. What really are we trying to achieve by what we're doing? Well, increase air quality awareness in our local schools, in our local communities. And if we can increase awareness with our youngest children, after all, they are our biggest hope. So if we can start supporting that there, then perhaps there is hope in the future. And of course, if we can increase awareness with the teachers and the parents, then we can start tackling air pollution now. And also supporting the educational projects that we talked about. So to help using the skills and abilities that we have as a business, help those schools with those educational projects. Of course, help them remediate any air quality risks, like the example I talked about with radon. So as we come across them, we find them, we're going to help those schools have safer, cleaner indoor environments. And finally, just help those local schools just improve, because the landscape that we see in terms of the money that is available to improve our schools is very, very bleak indeed. And I do fear what we're going to do with the 98% of our 22,000 English schools beyond the next decade. It's going to be a challenge. So anything we can do is a positive thing. If you want to follow it, our campaign, we are going to update our campaign page in a few weeks' time. We're going to have a page for every single school. So we're going to be tracking, road mapping, what we're doing with those schools and the data, what we found, what we've done, what's worked, what hasn't, because that helps anybody do the same thing anywhere else, and that's a good thing as well. So, just follow that or click on the QR code or whatever. And that's it. I hope you found that interesting. Thank you.